Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello and welcome to today's Battletech review. Today we are going to be looking at the big boy of the Celestial series with the Archangel. We have one or two of them now floating around, or as we've worked on them. Not one of my favorite machines to work on. It has some weird idiosyncrasies that make me question some things about it, but it's definitely not one of the worst thing out there, and it is probably one of the toughest machine ever built. So let's get into it. The head engineer for the Word of Blake, at least for the Celestial series, was Devon Cortland, who was also known as Vapula during the period of the Jihad. He is an odd individual. We have a few different details about him. He became disgruntled with the work of the Word of Blake later in his life and rejoined the Republic of the Sphere, or what would become the Republic of the Sphere, to help them out. I'm not sure if it was 100% an act of contrition or if he just wanted to save his hide. He's the one who came up with the entire Celestial series, along with the demonic battle armor or something along those lines. I'm not a battle armor engineer, so I'm not the one focusing on those most of the time. And you started from the very small Malik all the way up to this massive Archangel. And all of those were being built for Presenter Apollyon, who was basically the head of the Shadow Divisions of the Word of Blake, basically their Special Forces and Terror Forces. All of them use a basic setup, which is pretty much the same: a C3I computer, a small cockpit, a few different bits and bobs in it. A lot of the Celestial mechs have compact gyros to allow you to pack more equipment in the center torso and make you a little bit more resilient to damage. It really depends on how much stuff you can fit in that center torso, in a way. Those machines were also optimized for use by the Mani Domini, using their vehicular direct neural interfaces. I am never a huge fan of something that connects you directly to the machine, at least not in terms of how it can cause some other issues. But client interface cockpits have been looked at recently, and I think that they're not a terrible idea either. So maybe an evolution on both of these designs would be a good thing for pilots to be able to control their machines a little bit more effectively, and hopefully have that paint shunt. So when you get a pretty bad hit, you don't feel like you're getting your arm ripped off at the same time. So there was a lot of little things going on with these Celestial machines. At 100 tons, the Archangel is really a big boy mech, but what you have in it is a whole lot of technology that actually saves internal space rather than saving weight, which is not what you see most of the time when dealing with Battletech. At 100 tons, you can afford to do that a lot of times, but you still end up with 36 tons of pod space on the Archangel, which might be a little tight. 36 tons does give you a wide range of things. If you started putting clan technology on top of it, you would be golden. At 100 ton, I mean, you're about that, well, 36% of your internal weight that you're going to be able to use as far as weapon, EWAR equipment, etc. The engine is a 300 compact, and it's paired with a compact gyro, so you have a massive amount of space in the center torso to put equipment. Like all the other Celestials, like we kept seeing, it's got a small cockpit with a vehicular direct neural interface set up in it. If you do not have the VDNI, you might have a hard time piloting it, but you can still do it. And you get a top speed of about 54 kilometers per hour in a full run, and it's not equipped with built-in jump jet. The only real built-in equipment on it is a C3I computer and an extra 2 double heat sinks, which are mounted in the engine itself, so you don't have them taking up any of the internal space on the machine. One thing that does take up some room is the endosteel chassis, which does require some space in where you would put weapons, but it does save you an extra 5 tons of equipment, which is very decent. For the armor, you've got 19.5 tons of standard plates, making you really, really tough. And with that compact engine, compact gyro, you're going to need to be hit pretty darn hard. and very focused for you to start losing performance on this machine. Personally, I would have gone with the name of actual Archangels for the various configurations rather than the standard ones they were giving to all of those celestial machines. A lot of people also use primary, alpha, beta, etc. like we normally do for clan mechs, because not a whole lot of people even know about the designations our friends in the Word of Blake did. The primary, or Invictus, edge maxing, etc., is a fairly heavily armed machine with a plasma rifle right underneath the pilot's seat, just so you can keep warm. It also means that it's a very difficult weapon to disable. So even though you might lose both sides of your mech and be a pair of legs and a center torso, you will have one big gun all the way. Your right arm, generally, I mean, it's an zombiemech, so you could switch them around fairly easily, but most of the time it's on the right arm as a nice big heavy PPC, and your opposite arm as a retractable blade, which is very nice when you get into melee with someone, especially on a 100-ton mech. It's going to make very big holes when it hits. As extras, you get a targeting computer to guide the fire of that plasma rifle and heavy PPC, and a Guardian ECM to protect you against other things that might happen, or to use it as an ECCM to keep your C3I computer going. Configuration: Gabriel mounts a pair of heavy PPC, one in each arm, and the pilot actually sits comfy on a snub-nose PPC. This I actually like better than that plasma rifle from the original, because the snub-nose PPC doesn't require any ammo. You're going to be able to keep shooting it, basically, and you're really going to be a nice zombie mech. To make the whole thing extra zombie, you actually also get a pair of ER medium lasers in the center torso. I've seen some people mount them backwards as well to increase protection. You could probably mount one forward, one backwards. I mean, do what you want. It's an omni-mech. But as a zombie at that point, with a stun-nose PPC, 2 ER medium laser in that center line there, even if you start losing a whole lot of bits, you are still going to be a very good threat at shorter range. It's not going to be a super long-range machine there, but stun-nose PPCs are very efficient at what they do at decent enough range still. ER medium lasers can be swapped for clan grade ones. There's not much of a difference between the two, same weight, same connectors as well. On an omni-mech, it's going to be fairly easy to get if you manage to find some and have a mech that you want to put in that particular configuration. That might be an idea of where to go. Configuration: Raphael keeps the heavy PPC party going with another heavy PPC on the right arm. Well, once again, you can switch it around, but you've got a pair of light PPCs on the other. Light PPCs can be fun. They give you a decent amount of range and a decent amount of punch for not that much weight. But on their own, I'm not a huge fan of them. If you put a PPC capacitor associated with them, it's going to be pretty darn good at that point. It's really a question of taste, let's say, and a question of what you want to do with the equipment. To balance things out, you get a snub-nose PPC in the center torso and another one in the head. So you get a whole lot of PPCs on that thing. Blue field dampening systems are not very good or very efficient still. So as far as a defense against all those PPCs, there's not much you really have. So this configuration will give you great punch at long range and at shorter range. But of course, like with all PPCs, it's going to run you really hot. So you do have 9 extra heat sinks to try to keep you at least decently cool. Once things get a little bit close by and you get to shoot those 2 snub-nose PPCs, it's going to keep perfectly cool. It's at longer range with that heavy PPC generating 15 units. It starts going up really quickly. You're still very much of a zombie mech with 2 snub-nose PPCs in the center line. This one is going to be a threat at pretty much every situation. Finally, we get a version without any PPCs, which is surprising at this point. The Dominus actually packs a pair of 40 rack MRM on each arm with 12 case protected reload in each side torsos. I'm not sure if you could probably fit an Artemis on those. Well, not an Artemis, it's an Apollo on those MRMs, making them a little bit more accurate. It's probably one of those situations where they had to squeeze it in and have some backup weapons at the same time. This one, you have a pair of ER medium lasers to help you out once you're out of shots, and a defensive ER small laser pointing backwards, but like with most Omnis, you could switch it around without any issues. To mess with other enemies' electronics and protect your own C3I, you get a Guardian ECM on top of this, which is not a bad idea. Honestly, here, I don't like MRMs. With Apollos, they're a little bit better. With a C3I, again, they're a little bit better because you're going to get someone to spot for you to give you a little bit more accuracy. The fact that they are rather inaccurate causes some issues, at least in my book. Uriel configuration goes back to the basic with good old ERPPCs because it really works. A Guardian ECM, once again, protects you and can be used to stop enemies. And as backups, you get 4 medium pulse laser and an ER small laser. And in order to take care of infantry, a small pulse laser. On top of all of that, you also can jump 90 meters. This one will run rather hot, however, so you do have to be a little bit careful about that. And those medium pulse lasers, they're inner sphere medium pulse lasers, so the range is really not that great on them. Probably have medium X pulse lasers on some of them, but then the EAT curve would be even worse. It's one of those situations where you have to start digging and looking at the numbers to figure out, where you are going to go. The next configuration, CAFZL configuration, is another light show, which uses the same 2 ERPPCs. All that linked to a targeting computer to get you a little bit more accuracy. To back this up, you get an ER large laser in the head and a light PPC in the center torso for more zombie mech action. If anything gets really, really close, you get 2 ER small lasers to give you a tiny little bit of bite. With the ER large laser, you do have something to shoot in that minimum range area. The RPPCs do not have minimum range, but they do run you quite hot. This is one of those mechs that is going to be fairly reliable once you understand how it works. As with most Celestial series mechs, there is a odd mixed tech version of it. And this one I find really odd because it is far from optimized. The primary weapons are a Thunderbolt 10 single missile launcher, which is more fun than I expected at first, now that I've seen more people use it on gun cams and various battle ROMs, and a pair of binary laser cannons in the shoulders. That's where the problem really lies, because the rest of the equipment is clan tech, with a pair of ER small laser in the left arm and ER medium laser in the center torso. You even get a pair of ER flamer in the head for some dragon fire breathing action. The real problem there is really those binary laser cannons. Those things are quite inefficient. They're probably some of the worst weapons you can mount on a mech. I'd rather have gone with a pair of PPCs. Would have been simpler to source and simpler to use. Or, you're already using clan tech. Just put in a clan large pulse lasers, add some heat sinks or move things around. It's really not worth it to have basically 2 large lasers duct taped together for less performance. I'm not sure why this was selected for this particular variant, which is supposed to be standard. Investing in more efficient weapon setups would probably have been better. Compared to most Celestials, the Archangel is actually not quite dead. The DCMS quite likely have been heavily inspired by the Archangel when they designed the TN-10O Tenshi, which means Angel. It's a little bit smaller than your Archangel at 95 ton, and it uses a 285 light engine rather than a compact one, so it's a little bit less survivable. Let's say you can't turn it into a massive zombie. It's protected by 18.5 tons of armor, which is more than enough on an assault mech. Through moving things around, the Tenshi actually has 48 tons of pod space, which is more than half its weight, which is very, very decent. Your primary configuration mounts a Gauss rifle and 5 light PPCs, all linked to a targeting computer, and a pair of one-shot rocket launcher 10s. It's very functional, it's rather popular, and it's the kind of machine that I probably would like to dump some money on in order to get, because it does what it's supposed to do on the tin, and it doesn't require any fancy implants or anything like that in order to be properly piloted. I personally prefer the Tenshi a whole lot more. Sorry, all the Blakist fan out there, but I do think the Combine did it a lot better that time around. That being said, the Archangel can easily become a nightmare just because of how zombified most configurations end up being. You've got armor, you've got compact component, if you've got a decent pilot and a decent tech, mounting the weapons in the slots where they're going to be kept alive. These things are not done fighting until the fighting is done, basically. With the Blakist generally done, you shouldn't have to worry about these things too terribly much. If you manage to find one in the wild for sale that wasn't dismantled or destroyed by the Republic of the Sphere, it's not a bad purchase. You might have a bit of a hard time sourcing the engine and the gyro assembly, but the fact that they're compact means that there's less chance of them being damaged. It's one of those situations where digging into the parts might be a little bit hard, but once you've got a source for them, buy a few extras, and you'll be able to keep that mech going for a long, long time. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.